This is day 84, ratcheting up the pressure. I'm renewing my commitment to ambitions. I have big ambitions, but I've also come to realize that achieving those ambitions requires more than just intention. It demands commitments and sacrifices aligned with their magnitude. After reflecting on my current commitments, I've reached a clear conclusion. They're not at the level necessary to truly pressure me to success. At 84 days into my latest set of commitments, I've made decent progress, yet I feel it's time to ratchet up the pressure, to gradually increase the intensity in a way that leaves no room for retreat. Much like the ratchet tool that only tightens every step forward will make backtracking impossible for me. Once the pressure is applied, I will either move forward or I will fail. So, what am I going to do? Well, I have 7 commitments. Commitment number 1, water intake. I need to drink a minimum of 12 cups of water per day. That's bare minimum. For me to be able to run well or able to perform well or just be healthy, I need 12 cups of water per day. Despite knowing this, I often fall short, and I have a commitment to drink more water, right? But it's not specific enough. So to address this, I'm starting with a small but specific commitment. Drinking 2 cups of water at the start of each day. So I'm going to put the 2 cups of water out, like one 16-ounce bottle of water or 2 cups of water. I'm going to have it out and ready to go. So that when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I'm going to do is down 16 ounces of water. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot, but if I add that to what I normally drink during the day, that'll automatically increase my fluid intake. So I've succeeded at this before, and this is how I did it. So what I'll do is I'll add 2 at this time. My trigger point will be wake up in the morning. And then what I'll do is in about a month, I'll add 2 at another time. Let's say when I eat lunch, I will trigger every time I sit down to eat lunch, I will add 2 more cups. So that'll be 4 cups of water I automatically get every day. And what I'll do is I'll just keep adding until I get up to that. I'm always taking 12 cups of water in addition to whatever else I might be taking. So that's what I've done. I did this for a year and I was able to drink a minimum of 12 cups a day for a year. And that was great. I felt great, by the way. So I know this is a critical commitment and a habit to have. So I'm rebuilding it. Commitment number 2, morning prayer and meditation. Now I do this already, but I got to make it better, like high quality. Like my quality just sucks right now. So what I want is a 30-minute session of prayer and meditation each morning. And that has been transformative for me in the past. This is a time to quiet my mind, reflect, and address the pressures that are weighing on me. However, I've let the seriousness of this practice fade. So I'm going to restart this commitment with a new fervor. And so what I'm going to do is in the morning when I wake up, I'm just going to spend 5 minutes. 5 minutes, that's it. That's all I'm asking, 5 minutes. And I'm going to spend that 5 minutes not allowing myself to look at my phone, look at my computer, look at my email, watch TV, nothing. I'm going to sit in a quiet place and I'm going to let my mind just go. And I'm going to, as thoughts come up, I'm going to go, oh, that's a nice little thought. Let me put that thought over here. And I'm going to continue to do that until I get into a mindful state where I know what's bugging me the most that day and what I need to really work on. This practice that I started maybe 6 years ago has been the single most impactful practice I've ever done. And what I do is when I resolve to what I'm going to do that day, during that meditation session, I then pray about it and I ask God for help. And I make a commitment to God that I'm going to get this done. So that's what I'm going to do. Morning prayer meditation. 5 minutes is all I'm asking. Now, what I'll do is I'll increase that 5 minutes to 10 minutes or 7 minutes or something until I get to the 30. Commitment number 3, end of the day reflection. When I started the 365 commitment, which I started several years ago, So I've done basically 5 or 6 of these commitments, these 365-day commitments. So what I'm going to do is at the end of the day, I've had this practice that I do where I sit and I take time to reflect and identify unresolved thoughts, and I recommit to the day the next day, and I write a journal entry. Now I've let this kind of fall apart. So I used to follow this really good checklist that I did every night, and it was powerful. And I did it every night for like a year in a row, and it was awesome. The problem is I've just let it slide. I still do it, but I don't do it anywhere near what it is. So what I'm going to do is at the end of the every day, I'm going to commit to one thing for now, and I'll add more later on my checklist. But the one thing I'm going to have on the checklist is just for me simply to write down the things that are still floating. I don't know if you know what that means. You're working all day. Like today, there's this, I made a commitment to a client that I would get something done for them. And I made that commitment, and it's on me. It's weighing on me. Like I got to get it done. But like I didn't get it done today. I didn't have time. Like I'm traveling with my family. That's why I'm recording this in a car. I'm traveling with my family, and I'm skiing. I'm doing stuff that I'm visiting my grandmother. I'm doing things that I don't have time to do this client work, but it's pressing on me. So tonight, I'm just simply going to write down that I need to get that done. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to put it down on that piece of paper. This is something that is still on my mind. It's a floating thing that I have to deal with. That way I can say, you know what? I've recorded that now. I'm at peace. And then I can sleep better. Commitment number 4, the PSS +1 challenge. So you're welcome to join me on this. So if you listen to this video, you can start right now and join me. You'll think this is freaking nuts, by the way, but it works. So a few years ago, I decided to do 1 push-up, 1 sit-up, and 1 squat. And I picked those 3 because I think those suck. I hate them the most, right? I hate push-ups, sit-ups, and squats. So I picked the thing that I hate the most. So I did those. And what I did is every day I would add 1. So on day 2, I would do 2 push-ups, sit-ups, and squats. Day 3, I would do 3 push-ups, sit-ups, and squats. Day 4, and I kept doing that for a full year. And I remember the day when I did 365 push-ups, sit-ups, and squats. And it just so happened that I was at a conference for my company, and I was at the hotel gym. There was other people from my company in there doing their morning workouts. And everybody's on edge when you're doing a morning workout amongst your colleagues because you want to look really cool, right? Like it's a big deal. You got to look cool. You don't want to be like normal. Like when I go to the gym, I'm normally like, oh, I'm so tired. I want to freaking do this. But when you're at the hotel gym and your colleagues around, you're trying to look all cool. Well, I went in there, and it just so happened that I had to finish my commitment, my 365. So I did it. I did 365 push-ups, sit-ups, and squats that day to end my commitment. And people were looking at me like, what the freak? This is amazing, right? So I had the added benefit of the ego trip. But the point is I did that routine no matter what. There was times when I was doing that in hotel rooms. I even had to do push-ups one day in an airplane because I had to get it done before midnight, right? Because I was on a red-eye flight, and I apologized to the stewardess. I explained to her what I had to do, and she said, go for it. And I did my 42 push-ups right there in the area where the stewardesses hang out. I was very appreciative to let me do that. Anyway, but the point is, I did it every day. Now, when I was done with that, I was a bucket. I weighed like 185 pounds, and I was had the most leanest physique I've ever had in my life. So I've dropped that commitment. I dropped it, and as a consequence, I've kind of let myself go a little bit. So I've gained a little bit more weight than I want to, and running's a little harder. I've noticed that my breathing's not so good anymore. So it's time. It's time to get back to PSS, baby. So I'm doing PSS +1 challenge starting today. I already did. I just did it. I did a push-up, a sit-up, and a squat. 1. Seems really stupid, doesn't it? Well, tomorrow's going to be 2. And then in a month from now, this is getting real when you have to do 30, right? Now it's real, right? Now you're like, oh crap, I got to do 30 of these suckers. So, and then, 2 months you're doing 60, 3 months you're doing 90. And by the time you're doing 100, you're like, okay, you're starting to feel the effects, right? So that's commitment number 4. Commitment number 5, writing every day. Now I write every day, as you know, because I write this blog and I talk about the blog or I read the blog. I either read the blog on the video or I talk about it. Like tonight, I'm talking about it. I'm not reading it. So writing every day commitment. There is a project I'm working on. It's important to me. Nobody knows what it is. It's just mine. But I need to write something, and it's big and it's massive, and I want to get this done. But I'm not making enough progress. My progress is slow. So starting today, and I already did it, I'm committed to writing 5 minutes every day on this topic until I can get to some gravity of body of work. So I'll start with 5 minutes, and as I get comfortable with that, I'll go to more minutes, like 10 to 15 to 20, to where I get up to where I'm writing an hour a day on this topic. My goal is to get to write an hour a day on this very important topic to me. It's probably the most important thing to me personally. So that is worth spending an hour a day on. Commitment number 6, rebuilding my memory palace. I'm just really pissed off that I let my memory palace fall into disrepair. It's now become an ancient ruin. So if you don't know what it is, there's this method of Loki by the Greeks to create a mind palace in your mind to help you remember things. If you got to remember, guys like Socrates were remembering these long stories and telling them to people. You had to have a way to memorize all this, right? To give these long speeches. So I learned that when my memory is firing, I'm just better at everything in my life. Everything is better. Everything is faster. Everything is smoother. Going to the airport is easier. Uh, Participating in conference calls is easier. Remembering things you're supposed to do is easier. Remembering long strings of numbers is easier. Remembering what hotel room you're in. Everything is easier when you can memorize things quickly. So I have a memory palace, and it's 100 rooms. It has 100 rooms in it, and it took me forever to build it. It took me like a year to build this thing, and I've let it fall. Now I remember most of it, but not all of it. So I need to go back and do some renovations. So this is going to be really freaking hard. So I'm going to start with 5 minutes a day. So I'm going to spend 5 minutes a day, probably at night as I'm laying in bed. I'm going to spend 5 minutes going through my memory palace. And then throughout the day, as I practice it, I'll see things, I'll see numbers, and I'll remember the numbers. So I'm going to try that. Like I'm looking at a license plate right now. 1948 is license plate, right? I'll remember 1948. So because I have a rooms that 1948 belong into. So that's what I'm going to do for commitment number 6. Commitment number 7, and by the way, I always commit to 7 things, right? That's what I always do. So I'm run. Now I run. I love running. Running has changed my life. I was not a runner for my whole life up until I got into my late 40s. I was not a runner. But now I love to run. I consider myself a runner. Even though sometimes I fall out of shape or I gain a little bit of weight or whatever, I still love running. Now, but it's time to ratchet up the running. My ultimate goal is to complete a 100-mile marathon. I've completed a 50-miler, so I want to get a 100-miler done. I want to put on the back of my car, those stickers you see where people put 13.1, 26.2. I want to put 13.1, 26.2, 50, and then I want to put 100, right? So, and then I can go eat that. Because although there's a lot of people that run 100-mile marathons, there's not that many people that have done it. So my goal is to get that done before I die. So, but I require to be in condition. And although I can run pretty good now, my condition is crap. I've let my pace fall apart. So what I'm going to do is get my pace on schedule. So I'm going to do that by every running. I'm just going to do a mile every day, just a mile for now. And I'm going to keep working on that mile until I get the pace to what I want it to be. And then I'm going to add another mile to it. So my goal would be to initially build up to 5 miles at a 7-minute per mile pace. That's pretty good for my age. So I want to be able to run 5 miles at a 7-minute per mile pace. And that's my initial goal, is to get to that. So I'm going to do that by working on sprint work for a mile every day. Now, in addition to my other long runs and stuff, that's what I'm going to do. So that's my major commitment going forward. So this is where I stand today. I'm recommitting to proven practices by ratcheting these suckers up. Ambition is never achieved in leaps. It's earned through daily action, incremental progress, and an unwavering commitment to improvement. I'm ready to take on that challenge, one ratchet click at a time. Let's see where this next 365 days takes me.